welcome to the Rotowire Fantasy Football Podcast, and we are sponsored by Circa Million and Circa Survivor Contest. I'm Jim Coventry along with James Koh. James and I will continue to get you ready for your drafts. We're analyzing overvalued, undervalued players in 2025 drafts. James Koh, we are going to get rolling here with a couple of players I'm a little bit down on this year. I'll hear what your thoughts are as well. So I'm going to start with one, Jayden Daniels of the Washington Commanders. This is a tough one because he saved everybody's season last year. You drafted him late. You got top-end production, 915 rushing yards. Couple of concerns. I noticed the first time they played Philly, the third time they played Philly, and when they played Pittsburgh, they had answers for this offense. And I think that a second-year learning curve is going to happen with film out on Jayden Daniels. Not comparing him to C.J. Stroud, but we saw when the league made adjustments to him, it wasn't easy. But the schedule was super easy for Daniels last year.
Right.
This year, the schedule is significantly more difficult. But, James, my biggest concern,
right,
he is slight of build. It's about 210 pounds, and I don't even know if he's honestly that. And if he's going to continue to run as much as he does, and of course you're going to take hits in the pocket, even though they added 2 tackles, I just don't see from a durability standpoint a quarterback of that frame holding him. He made it last year. Only left that Carolina game early, but he was fine. But it's betting on a tightrope. I don't have a lot of hard evidence otherwise to say Daniels is going to bust. But to me, it's red flags, and the quarterback 3 cost, I'm nervous. Where do you stand on Jayden Daniels?
He is a player that, again, I hear what you're saying in terms of the injury risk just because of his frame. But I think where he's different than I think about another Washington quarterback. You think about RG3. The guy couldn't hold up, right? So, but the one thing about RG3 was that for some reason, the guy just didn't like to go out of bounds, you know? So I will say with this about Jayden Daniels, I think he's much more susceptible to go out of bounds. And RG3's biggest problem, man, was that he also didn't know how to slide properly, which was really funny and weird. But yeah, no, Jayden Daniels, though, I think he has done an actual pretty good job of protecting himself. He's not necessarily Kyler Murray, going down at the first blush of contact. But at the same time, I think he, again, has done a relatively good job either getting out of bounds or going down before big hits come. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Anytime you get out of the pocket, you're putting yourself at risk. I mean, you think about the concussion that knocked out Trevor Lawrence last year. He did everything right. He got out of pocket, right. He slides, and he took a dirty hit. It took a huge dirty hit, and it knocked him out for the rest of the season. So, yeah, it happens. That being said, I think the first point that you brought up in terms of teams adjusting, defenses adjusting to Jayden Daniels, I don't think we're talking about this enough because it's not just Jayden Daniels. It's Cliff Kingsbury.
Yes. Preach. Here we go.
Cliff Kingsbury teams have never done better in the second. Never, because he has a completely static and very easy, predictable offense, right? So yeah, no, teams absolutely adjust. The only thing that changes with Cliff is his personnel. And once you do that, you're not having to find a counterpunch to Cliff's offensive scheming, right? So I think to me, that's probably a more important point is that we've never seen Cliff Kingsbury offenses do better the second go around than their first, right? So I've got some serious concerns there. As you mentioned, the scheduling certainly does play a factor. And we haven't even talked about, is Terry McLaurin going to be on this team?
Right?
If he is not on this team, I think the passing game absolutely goes into the tank, man. So I think he will be on the team. It'd be crazy if Washington let him go, even if they trade him for a first. It doesn't make sense with where they're at from a team building standpoint right now. But if he is, even with like a 10% possibility that he's not on this team to start the year, that certainly adds a lot of downside risk too.
I think that's really important to bring up to the Terry McLaurin. We're recording this on Wednesday, August 6th. This is going to drop on the podcast form on, I think, Sunday the 13th. So there'll be a little bit of a delay on that. So if McLaurin signed during that time, understand that's the reality. But James, not every time, but a lot of times when these players sit out time during camp when they're supposed to be conditioning, the season doesn't really start well. I think the recency bias is Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk
Sure.
had a monster season. He had one good game in 7, and he was horrible. And then he obviously got injured. It had nothing to do with that. But that said, it can happen that it throws off chemistry. It throws off the player's performance. And if McLaurin is not right, I'm going to go with what you say. That could not be good for this offense. Any final words there, James?
The QB3 price tag, I think, is it's tough, right? Because I think you're drafting him at a ceiling. That being said, he's worth it. The guy's just a super talented player. It's like, again, we're kind of sort of none of this is about Jayden Daniels. That's what's funny. Like,
right?
None of it is about Jayden. Jayden is great. Like, we can all sit here and praise Jayden, and I think deservedly so. It's just the external factors that drive his price from a QB3 down just a little bit. I think if you're drafting him, you're hoping all the things that we just talked about kind of go away, and that Jayden's talent actually elevates him to another level, which is very possible too. It's just that it's not like he's not going to outperform Josh Allen, and if Lamar's healthy, he's not outperforming Lamar, right? So again, you're taking him at his absolute peak. And that to me is a little bit scary, but that being said, he's such a supremely talented player, man. I could see it happening.
We had a comment on McLaurin. Everybody in the world knows he's a touchdown regression candidate. The 13 touchdowns probably won't happen again. He was 4 or 5 every one of the prior 4 seasons. Yes, with Daniels, maybe there's a little more than that. But in terms of everything else, there is no regression for McLaurin. He was the exact same player. If you look at his numbers, between 72 and 82 catches, between 1,000 and 1,100 yards, everything else was his normal season. That was the one thing with McLaurin. The only outlier last year was the touchdowns. Nothing else was. Same season. Any word on McLaurin, if he plays and if he's healthy, while we're just broaching the subject?
I actually think there's room for growth because, Jayden Daniels was amazing last year, but I think the first 2 or 3 games of the season, he was not throwing the ball well.
Right.
I mean, listen, he was just not throwing the football well the first 2 or 3 games of the season. Probably just the first 2, now that I'm thinking about it. But still, though, I do think that there is room for growth. There's just not that many pass-catching options there for Washington. You talk about the targets. Why can't the targets go up? Why can't the targets go up to 140, 150? I think that's still there's still an outside chance of that happening. So again, touchdown regression, 100% for sure. There's no question. But that being said, I do think that some of the volume can actually overcome some of that too. So I've got McLaurin with anywhere between 7 to 9 touchdowns. That feels pretty fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
But again, I don't think he's going to get to 12 or 13. But I think 9, even 10, I think is very much a possibility.
And really, any receiver, I don't think we ever predict them to have double-digit touchdowns or much over it. Chase,
Correct.
you may be able to make a case, but we usually don't. We usually project them in the 9, maybe to 10 area, but not much more than that. So great call on that. All right, my next player, and you've heard me talk about him over the summer, that I think is a bust candidate. Again, not because of him, but I think Bo Nix is one we have to be very careful of. And Bo Nix was great last year. He ran for 430 yards. He really had to step up in the second half of the season because they couldn't get a running game in Denver. Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Esme, they could not sustain the run. So Sean Payton had no choice. All right, we got to get Bo Nix to work. And Bo Nix got you 3 25-plus fantasy games over the last 7 games, and he was great. Here's the thing. The defense was very good last year, but they had weaknesses. They really worked to shore those defenses up. Bring in linebacker Dre Greenlaw, safety Talanoa Hufanga, first-round draft pick cornerback Jahdae Barron. This team wants to play defense, but they also want to run the ball. And they draft R.J. Harvey second round. They bring in J.K. Dobbins. The line's really good. I don't feel as if this offense wants to run through the passing attack. They want to pass when they need to. They want to pass situationally, but they want to be back to the Sean Payton roots. And I know he had Drew Brees back in the day, but they ran the heck out of the ball. So I think Bo Nix was being drafted right about quarterback 8. I don't think the second half of last year is realistic because I don't think he's asked to do that. I think he's more the quarterback 12 or 13. Where do you stand on Bo Nix, James?
Yeah, I think part of it too is the rushing, right? This is a guy that got out there. He got you 430 yards on the ground. I'm not saying he. I just find that to be a relatively large number for where we're at with Bo Nix. So I think to your point, where if his surroundings are a little bit more stable, I would anticipate that number to be a lot closer to 300 than it is to 400. And if we're doing that, okay, now we're taking a lot of points off the board. By the way, he did score 5 scrimmage touchdowns too. And again, I don't know. That can certainly happen. But the funny thing is, it's so tightly bunched in that quarterback range, Jim. The reason I bring up these small little minor details is, okay, let's take 3 scrimmage touchdowns off of the board for Bo Nix. Let's take 100 rushing yards off of the board for Bo Nix. Okay, now we're not drafting the quarterback. He was the quarterback 7 last year. We're not drafting the quarterback 7, 8 now. Now he's more of the quarterback 12, right? So to me, I think there is certainly downside for Bo Nix. That being said, he's also a young emerging player. So I am a little bit torn, much like I was with Jayden Daniels. I'm a little bit torn on Bo Nix. Although, to your point, I don't think we're talking enough about the downside risk when we talk about Bo Nix.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And obviously, that was a case I also agreed with you on from the beginning. So, no need to go on with that further. Just be careful. Sometimes, look, we don't know everything, we don't know a lot. But sometimes if we could see what the team's situation is, we can get a lot more than the raw numbers get for us. And that's what we're trying to do here. Paint a narrative. If you don't buy into it, then go ahead and draft them high. But if you buy into it, draft with caution and maybe move in a different direction. The Circa Million and the Circa Survivor are back with a massive $21 million in guaranteed prizes. The Circa Million, you pick 5 games against a spread each week, 18 weeks of action, 126 ways to win, $1 million for the winner, and $6 million overall guaranteed. Circa Survivor, 1 pick a week, no point spread. You last the longest to win it all, at least $15 million overall guaranteed. You enter in Nevada, you play from anywhere, $21 million guaranteed. Visit circasports.com for details. James Koh, my third quarterback I want to bring up is Kyler Murray. And it was great last year. Murray played 17 games for the first time since 2020. He really got going on the ground. Very, very happy with 572 rushing yards. It isn't Lamar. It isn't Jayden Daniels, but it was a nice tier below them for sure. What we see from Kyler Murray in most years, he really fades down the stretch. I remember that Week 17 game. My gosh, I don't think he got him in the end zone in that game. But he's had this history of collapsing in the second half. And this is really where my concern comes in. And the history of that, and then we look at the schedule down the stretch. Week 13 at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is not crazy, but it's a road game. And then they play the Rams, who have a decent pass rush. And then they go to Houston, who have an outstanding pass rush and even a really good secondary. It does ease up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. But with the history of crumbling, I am very concerned with Kyler Murray. I don't know that they did enough to add pass catching talent. Trey McBride's great. They didn't use Marvin Harrison well. Michael Wilson, I really like him, but they could do much, much better. So I don't think they gave him a lot. I think this team wants to run the ball, keep games closer, and really not make Murray have to be the hero. Can he run for a lot of yards? Yes. And his ADP is not or oppressive. But my concern is if it's a late season fade and you draft him and you need him for the fantasy playoffs, and then you get that, I just think that's where he busts. Maybe not whole season, but when you need him most, he won't be there for you. James?
Well, I'm 100% behind this one. And I've got a couple of stats here that I think people will find really, really interesting. But let's just start with the environment, right? You and I I think you and I are very aligned in terms of talking about, okay, we got to talk about environment for these players. It's because these guys are not just video game sprites, And you talked about they didn't do much. They did nothing.
Nothing. Zero.
Jim, they did nothing to improve the offense, like literally nothing. The offensive coordinator's talking like they had a successful year last year. Drew Petzing's talking about like, oh, okay, we're just going to run this back. Apparently, Marvin Harrison putting on 15 pounds of muscle, that's going to solve the entire offense.
Woo!
That's going to solve the – I mean, Jim, you talk about guys who have their head buried in the sand. I mean, the Cardinals right now offensively have their head buried in the sand. They did absolutely nothing to address the offensive side of the football. And this is the crazy thing. I get it. They needed to improve their defense. They've got a defensive-minded head coach there in Arizona. I understand. I get it. But to do nothing, to do absolutely nothing in terms of pass catching group there in Arizona, that it's insane to me. This was a hugely underperforming and underwhelming pass catching group, offensive environment last year. The run game was good. But again, you know what? James Conner played a career high 16 games last year. Right? So to me, the environment is very fragile. You talked about Kyler Murray not missing any games. Okay. Well, yeah, unfortunately, this guy's got a pretty lengthy injury history as well. Yes. So does James Conner. Right? So I think the offensive environment doesn't look that stable right now. There is certainly an injury risk, right? Like he played 8 games in 2023. He was a quarterback 26. He played 11 games in 2022. He played 14 games in 2021. That ended up being pretty good. But again, when you're talking about quarterbacks, that's a pretty lengthy injury history that we're looking at here with Kyler Murray. And now let me throw out the one stat that I think, again, people will find very, very interesting. For 4 straight years, Jim, we have seen his rush attempts go straight down every single year. He rushed 8.3 times per game in 2020. That was cut nearly in half. 4.6 rush attempts per game in 2024. So again, he goes from 8.3 to 4.6. Do we further see a decline in the rushing attempts in 2025? I think we do, because I think that, again, Kyler's not really, he's lost a little bit of speed. He's not quite the road runner that he was before.
Right.
And again, I talked about it earlier too with Jayden Daniels. This guy, he absolutely does not want to get touched. Right, so anytime there is pressure coming through the pipe, he's going down. He's looking to run less and less. He's looking to go down more and more. I just go back to Kyler. If he's not going to run, they didn't make any improvements on the offensive side. Drew Petzing is still the offensive coordinator. What has changed, Jim? Nothing. So the downside risk for me is too great. As you mentioned, this is also a player that fades down the stretch, man. I'm good. I am not drafting Kyler Murray as a top 10 fantasy quarterback, period.
Wait, so you're saying we can't bank on the vast history of success with the Arizona Cardinals, knowing that they run a top 3 offense year in, year out? Oh, wait a minute. They don't do that. They're not a good franchise. So, yeah, I guess never mind. So, yeah, we're out on Kyler Murray. Like the player, like watching him, and hopefully he's healthy and he has a better second half. But yeah, that said, yeah, not so much. Well, we are going to change up all this pessimism. We are going to talk sleepers with the Sleeper King after we take a short break. All right, James, we're coming in with sleepers here. Michael Pittman Jr. Now, last year, only 808 yards. He had averaged 1,053 and 5 the past 3 seasons. Nicked up a lot. His back was really hurt last year. Warrior, he played through it. I just thought that was very impressive of him. Look, 48th percentile yards after the catch for a possession guy, not the best. The efficiency probably had to do with the bad quarterback play and the placement of the ball. But that said, Pittman's been a very good player for a number of years. Last year was a down year. You like him this year, and you could get him around wide receiver 50. That's a good price, James.
Yeah, wide receiver 52 right now, according to Rotowire ADP. He's going outside the top 110 picks. I just want to remind people that Michael Pittman is a dang good player. You could love Josh Downs. Adonai Mitchell's an up-and-coming player, and Alec Pierce obviously has a role as an outside X receiver, just catching bombs from Anthony Richardson, which is fun to see last year. And I get it. Michael Pittman was bad last year. There's no question. He was bad. But as you mentioned, why was he bad? Was he bad because he devolved as a player? Was he bad because he and the quarterback aren't on the same page? Is he bad because he, again, lost a step? I don't think any of those things are true. I think he had a bad back. And it's not as if he had suffered a devastating lower body injury. It's a bad back. I get it. He's going to need treatment for that for pretty much the rest of his career. There's no question. But he's still a really darn good player. There is some competition for targets there with Josh Downs, and they obviously picked up Tyler Warren at the tight end spot, who I love, man. I think he's, I think to me he's better than Cortland Loveland, and I just, I thought I think that he was the best and one of the best tight end prospects that we have seen in years. Okay, so there is a little bit of competition. There's certainly a competition for targets. But, man, wide receiver 52, Jimmy, talk to me through this. Wide receiver 52, that's insane to me, bruh. Like, I feel like if he was priced correctly, he'd be going in the top 75 picks. I'm not saying he's a top 10 guy.
Right.
But top 110 is too low. I think you could take him a couple rounds earlier if you wanted. It feels like to me he should be going around pick 75. 110 is absolutely crazy. If you see Michael Pittman around pick 100, I would just say snatch him up. Is it the most exciting pick in the world? No. And I get it. I'm the sleeper king, so I'm over here telling you, like, yo, we're trying to hit home runs. We're trying to hit home. I get it. But Michael Pittman, outside the top 100, that is such a solid pick. He's going to be one of these guys. He's going to be a wide receiver 3 flex play for you every single week, man. Like, I love this pick outside the top 100.
And that's the whole point, everybody. James is talking about ADP. Do I think Pittman's having a great year? No. I think he's going to share targets with Warren because they're both possession types. I think last year, 28.4 carries a game for Jonathan Taylor the last 5 weeks. They're going to run. Josh Downs is unique to the skill set of the receivers. And he has, but like James said, you're paying a wide receiver 50 cost. Pittman, it's a wide receiver 5. Pittman is definitely smashing that. He's at least a high-end wide receiver 4, and maybe he drags into the wide receiver 3 range. And with that kind of value, James sets you down the right path because you have to pay attention to the value. And James, that's a great analysis, and buy at that cost. And like you said, I've been on the clock a number of times. That range at a draft, I need a receiver, and it's that single or double. I'm not looking to try to hit one over the top of the stadium. The single and the double works fine because it's a player I'm going to need for bye weeks, for injuries, and I know I can rely on him. Hey, if you want to enter the greatest pro football contest in the world, the Circa Million and Circa Survivor contest in Nevada, which offer a massive $21 million in prize money, and Vegas Football Proxy can help you play in these contests. Vegas Football Proxy is based in Las Vegas, offers proxy services for customers all over the country. You sign up at the Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. You play from anywhere with Vegas Football Proxy. The folks at VFP are experienced professionals, 100% reliable, provide outstanding customer service. Their submission process is easy to use and ensures accurate and timely pick submissions. Tom Carroll and his team at VFP have been serving contest players for more than a decade and help countless clients achieve their dreams, from just being able to compete in a Vegas contest all the way to winning the Circa Survivor. If you want a shot at $21 million in prize money, visit VegasFootballProxy.com/RotoPod. Again, VegasFootballProxy.com/RotoPod for more details. All right, James, we are going to continue talking some sleepers here. We are going to start out Blake Corum of the Los Angeles Rams. We know that Kyron Williams just got paid long-term contract. The team spent a draft pick on Jarquez Hunter. Blake Corum had some work, but obviously was a clear number 2, only 58 carries and 7 receptions, barely used in most of the games he played. All that said, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Blake Corum and why we should be targeting, because you could get him again outside the top 50 running backs.
Yeah, he's a RB 59. I mean, again, this is a free square pick, right? Like this is a guy that you're taking 15th, 16th round. Again, I'm not, and again, I'm not trying to say, okay, go draft 100%. You can't walk away from your draft without Blake Corum. But I will say this: if there is a player that has, I mean, all like league altering upside, this is one of those players, right? Like I love Trey Benson, I love Jalen Wright. Like these are handcuffs that I am drafting regularly. Blake Corum is a forgotten man right now, and I just wanted to kind of sort of bubble him back up to the top, Jim, because again, people are assuming that Jarquez Hunter might be the backup here. And listen, I charted Jarquez Hunter. Hunter's the real deal. He's absolutely perfect for what they want to get done in LA. I think he was the best zone. He might have been one of the best inside. No, he was the best inside zone runner that I charted among the class last year. So no, he's perfect for what they want to do in LA. My only thing is, if you go back and look at the long history of rookie offensive players in LA for the Rams playing under Sean McVay, really Puka Nacua was the only guy that did anything. And I get it. Hey, Jim, that's a hell of an exception. It's Puka Nacua,
right?
man. I get it. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, if you go back and you look, these rookies, they don't do nearly any. I mean, Cooper Kupp did nothing his rookie year. You know what I'm saying? So I would just say I think that Jarquez Hunter is going to need a year to get used to the playbook. I think it's going to take a year for him to kind of, earn that trust. If something happens to Kyren Williams, and can we be real here? Kyren has dealt with injuries pretty much every single year, right? Like, has it translated into a ton of games missed? No, but he does seem to get banged up. So again, if there is a guy, and this is the one thing we know about Sean McVay, Jim, he's going with one guy. He is going with, I don't care how many times he tells the media that he's going to go work in other backs. It's just not the case. Again, Kyren Williams led the entire league in terms of running back opportunity share. Nearly 78% running back opportunities went to Kyren Williams. That was number one in the league. More than Saquon Barkley, more than Derrick Henry, more than any other running back. Sean McVay's going with one guy. If Kyren goes down, he's going with one guy. And could that guy be Blake Corum? Shoot, man, it might be. And if it is, that is potentially a league-altering selection right there that you're getting for free.
Exactly. And so if you are looking for running backs late and you didn't draft Kyren Williams missed 7 games as a rookie. He missed 5 games in 2023. James, that's a lot of missed times. That's 12 games missed, 22 games played. Now, last year he made it through. And if you see 16 games played, don't worry, it was 17 because they sat him with all the starters in week 18. Not his fault. So he was healthy. But that changes a very significant 2-year trend. So if Williams goes back to that, like you said, drafting Corum could be a league winner for you. Let's talk next about Jayden Daniels of the San Francisco 49ers. And it's funny, James, because my comment about a month ago was, you always look for the number 3 running back in San Francisco. Don't waste your time with the number 2. And for whatever quirky reason, it always seems like the number 3 ends up doing the best. But I want to hear you talk some real stuff about Jayden Daniels here.
Jayden Daniels is a traditional grinder. He's not a running back that I think defenses game plan for while at Oregon. But when you just look up, Jayden Daniels is just racking up yards. And again, he's not a good athlete by any stretch of the imagination. He's an acceptable athlete, but he's not great. Like 205 pounds, he ran a 4.55. He had a sub 10 broad jump. That's not what you want to see. Not at 205 pounds. That being said, Jim, it's weird. This is a guy that just I think he's a natural runner. He flows to the hole. He finds holes. He has a really, really good one-cut ability. And as we know in a Shanahan system, you got to run zone. Among all the prospects that I charted last year, it was a surprise to me to find that Jayden Daniels actually ended up grading in terms of the most consistent zone runner in the class last year. He was number 1 in success rate on zone runs. He was number 1 on man gap runs as well. That's what's crazy. Jordan James was just crazy consistent. And again, he's not an explosive athlete. I'll bring this up. He was dead last in explosive run rate last year among my charted class, right? So again, how are you dead last in explosive run rate, but number 1 in zone success rate? He just does such a good job of maximizing yardage. He's more powerful than you think. He's got really great one-cut ability. And again, right now, when you look at the depth chart in San Francisco, CMC, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries, obviously. It's the Achilles last year, plus it was the major PCL injury that knocked him out for the back half of 2024. I think it's foolish at the age of 29, with all the mileage that he's had, to think that CMC is going to come back and be the CMC of old. I don't see it. And Isaac Guerrero, listen, I want to love Isaac Guerrero. I do.
Yep.
I mean, there's just not that many humans walking the earth at 220 pounds with 4.3 speed. Like,
nope.
That's just... He's a rare human. He's a superhuman. He's a meta-human, bro. Like, I get it. But if he's got a weakness, it's, he can't stay healthy. He cannot stay healthy. Karma's got a crazy way of balancing the forces out a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, he's a meta-human, but he can't stay healthy, man. Like, he's dealing with a shoulder injury. And I'm thinking, okay, shoulder injury, not that bad. Then you read a little further. He's going to be out multiple weeks. What? Where does this come from?
I know.
It's hamstring injuries. It's knee injuries. It's shoulder. Isaac Guerrero just cannot stay healthy. Jordan James, next man up, behind the next man up. And again, if CMC does miss time, I really like Jordan James.
Yeah, agree on that. And that thing with Guerrero, you are right. I mean, we've already seen in brief amounts of time, injuries are a real concern. So bet on the number 3, and it's cheap. Jordan, what is he, running back 75, 78, somewhere in that range? You're getting him so late in drafts. And if you're only drafting 16 rounds, obviously you're not even able to dip into that pool. But again, great late pick. If there is something that you wish your fantasy league had, or features that are missing from your current league, bonus scoring, custom schedules or playoffs, deeper team settings, look no further. We got you covered with our friends at Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Fantrax even offers college football fantasy leagues. Create or join a fantasy football commissioner league, invite your friends, and dominate your draft this season. Fantrax is the top dynasty fantasy football platform in the industry. Fantrax is running a special promotion you don't want to miss. Sign up for free at fantrax.com/rotowire today to enter for your chance to win a signed Jamar Chase jersey. Simply create a new league or bring over your existing leagues for more chances to win. Simply go to fantrax.com/rotowire and sign up today. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. All right, James and I are going to go through a little bit of a mock draft. For this mock draft, we were working on this on past shows, so I'm trying to find the right screen here, but come back to it in a minute. There we go. Perfect. And we're going to do some middle round mock drafting on the Rotowire mock draft tool. So that should show on the screen about now. And let's see if we're there. Yep. All right. So first thing we want to point out a few things about Rotowire's mock draft tool. It has been totally reworked, and it helps you find your perfect draft, whether it's your first time or you're a vet. Rotowire does have you covered on this. We know that in the beginning of the setup for these drafts, we can help. You can decide if you want to take risks or be safe or shoot for upside early, middle, and late. You can check those off. And also you can set up, there's a whole list of elements to drag around. Quarterback play, offensive line, playoff schedule, injuries. You prioritize what's most important to you. So, and you also can lock in players that you want in your draft. So there's a beauty of the tool. So James, we are going to continue off from here, and we are going to go to make some picks here. So I'm going to show you the team that we currently have as soon as this comes up. So this will be, and I thought I had put a few rounds in here. I'm going to just put a few rounds in here randomly. We're going to get to the 5th round, and I'm going to make sure we do that. So let me just draft a few players randomly, and then we will talk through the picks after this. All right, do this, and we'll get 2 more picks, and then we are going to go through and analyze some players. All right, let's see here. Marion Hampton. We'll do one more, and then we'll talk through the roster we're going to go with. And James is going to talk through some draft process. Okay, so what we're going to look at here is the roster we're going to start with. We are going to start with a base of running backs. So Marion Hampton and James Conner, 3rd and 4th round picks. We went CeeDee Lamb and Drake London. That's a dynamic duo of receivers there in the first 2 rounds. So, James, that's going to bring us back to where we're drafting. And on the Rotowire tool, as James is going to look through picks that he may want to make, first of all, Rotowire gives you suggestions, and you notice the GM gives you notes on each player. If you have corresponding bye weeks, if there's a tier break, it gives you best available by position, the top 1 choice list there, upside players. It gives you safe players and rookies. So, James, talk through your process if you're on the clock in the 5th round right now, maybe what position you want to look at, and we'll get to making a few picks here.
Well, I would definitely, of this group here, I probably like RJ Harvey the best. Again, he's another player that I charted, a super explosive player. I thought RJ Harvey was like, this is going to be such a random reference, but he's like the Adam Dunn of running backs. Okay. A lot of home runs, a lot of strikeouts. Okay. A lot of home runs, a lot of strikeouts. Okay. So, but again, when you pair this guy with Sean Payton, I'm so intrigued. And again, our running back room right now features James Conner, who, as I highlighted before, has really struggled to stay on the football field with his hard-charging running style. Plus, he's older. He's an older running back right now, too. So I like kind of combining RJ Harvey with that running back group to kind of sort of protect myself against injuries. And on top of that, it's not just a floor play, but it's a ceiling play, too, because, man, how about if RJ Harvey ends up just being a dog in that Sean Payton offense? I think we've got some upside here. I love RJ Harvey in this middle round.
And one other thing I'm going to add, why I also like taking a 3rd running back at this point in the draft, if you get a running back injury, you're covered. If you have a flex position, which we do, you can flex a player and use all 3 running backs. So the player is useful every week, but the player is specifically useful because, look, you're going to draft darts at running back late in the draft, but there is no guarantee those darts turn into anything. So any final word on that before we go to our next pick, James?
No, I mean, we pretty much covered it. I think there are a bunch of handcuffs that I eventually want to get to. There's no question. So I would say after this, yeah, you're taking a look at your board here, right? It's like it's Omarion Hampton. You love a young player as your RB1. James Conner is there as your RB2. And now RJ Harvey. And again, if something happens to your running backs, great. If not, great. As you mentioned, you play him in the flex. I think from here on out, though, Jim, I'm probably hammering wide receiver, tight end, probably not tight end, but wide receiver. And if there's a quarterback that I like, then maybe I go make that reach too. But right now, probably hammering wide receiver.
So I was glad I was going to ask you to do that, to talk through the process of where we're going to go. So let's just click the wide receiver tab in the Rotowire tool again. It gives us our list of top receivers on the board here. And we have Xavier Worthy, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Jawan Jennings, who's dealing with some injuries, Calvin Ridley, and Rome Odunze. Probably stop there. James, who are you eyeballing here, and why do you like that player?
There's 2 players that I've got my eyeball on here, and one would be Jalen Waddle. The other one would be Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley's such an interesting player. I think he's going to get better quarterback play here with Cam Ward. He probably got some of the worst quarterback play in the league last year, and yet still put up 1,000 yards, right? So Calvin Ridley, I think at this point in the draft, is probably a pretty darn good value. And the only reason I bring up Jalen Waddle is, man, what happens if Tyreek Hill ends up getting moved?
Oh,
and I know that I'm going way too far in the future for this, but if Tyreek Hill ends up getting moved, Jalen Waddle becomes the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver there in Miami. He's going to get peppered with targets. He's going to get tons of yards. He's great after the catch. And he's just a darn good football player, man. So I think those two guys are sticking out to me.
What I will say is this, James, I've been on Calvin Ridley since April. And in April, Calvin Ridley's ADP was wide receiver 41. Every week or two, he keeps going up. James, he moved up all the way to wide receiver 32. That's 9 spots in ADP.
Wow.
That is very, very abnormal, especially when we're not talking about ancillary injuries. This is a player that people are starting to wake up on, and I still think he's a value there. So Ridley, would you say, is the safer floor play with reasonable ceiling, and Waddle is more of the boomer bust play? Yes.
Totally agree. Yes.
So who do you take based and let's look at our roster build. Again, our receivers are Lamb in London. Again, Hampton, Connor, and Harvey. Do you think we're better off taking safe or upside based on this roster build?
Again, I think for me, I think I'm leaning Ridley here. I actually think the upside case for Ridley is just as high as Waddle, to be honest with you.
Oh, I love that. I would love to see that. I was actually telling people, although he only had that 1 year in Atlanta where he went off playing alongside Julio Jones, I'm telling people Ridley could get 1,200 yards. If you take his second half of the season last year, I think it was week 8 on, he was averaging 76 yards a game. That was with Mason Rudolph, a little Will Levis. So I don't think that's all like out there saying that that's going to be the case. James, that takes us to the 7th round, ninth pick. And again, we just did look at the roster, but remember we have 3 receivers. We have 3 running backs at this point. Are you still looking to hammer another receiver here, or are you let's just quickly show people the positions available. So if you're looking at quarterback at this point, now we're already to the part of the draft where most of the top ones are gone. Murray, Purdy, Goff, Williams, Herbert, Prescott. So that's what's left at quarterback. Tight end, we've got through the top 7 or 8 are gone already. You got like 7 are gone. Njoku, you got Ingram, and then you're going some other players. And so are you still comfortable to wait on the 2 onesie positions, quarterback and tight end? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question. I think there's just so many quarterbacks that look appetizing there. But what are the running backs that are available at this point too?
So yes, we have Jaylen Warren, obviously in the timeshare, but in a very, very usage solid system in Pittsburgh. Travis Etienne, and the one thing I'm going to point out, James, about Etienne, I don't know what his final role is going to be, but I know the screen game under Liam Cohen was a thing of beauty in Tampa. And if he's going to replicate that screen game, Etienne is somebody who really fits that. Tyrone Tracy, who we just heard is apparently from Jordan Rainan of ESPN, is in the lead for that role. Najee Harris, Jordan Mason, Brian Robinson. James, talk through who you like, and if you want to look at another position.
So I love Tyrone Tracy. I almost feel like we can wait on Tyrone Tracy. Again, we're in the back end of the 7th round. I almost think he'll fall to us at 8. What's the wide receiver? There was a wide receiver that I saw in there that I was very interested in. And it's Rome Odunze.
Yes.
I think I would be, again, looking at this group, I would be upset with myself if I didn't draft Rome Odunze here at this spot. I love Rome Odunze. I think he's got big-time upside. Keenan Allen is there, vacating a ton of targets. He's obviously developing as a second-year player. And we're hoping that the Ben Johnson effect is real, So I think Rome Odunze is great, and I do love that pick right here.
One more thing I'm going to say. The Bears offense is taking a beating in the media right now. They're saying they're struggling. I want everybody to understand this. Dennis Allen just took over the defense. Dennis Allen is one of the best defensive coaches in the league. He is throwing all kinds of stuff at the Bears offense is developing. And that's good because Ben Johnson is able to see what Dennis Allen is doing to see how to build Caleb Williams and his offense around some of the stuff they're going to see. So all this negative, in my mind, no, it's anything but a negative because they are going to figure this out fast. Clicking Odunze. We're going to do one more pick here, James. So you said earlier with the running backs, let's see if they're available. And so do you want to go with that pick you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I love Tyrone Tracy here. And again, I thought he might fall just a little bit. I think Tyrone Tracy, and I wrote this up, man, Tyrone Tracy is one of the more undervalued running backs right now. He's not a sleeper because he's still going a little bit too early for that sleeper range, but he's undervalued. I mean, and again, it's a mispriced backfield in New York because people think that they're drafting Scatterbo and Tracy with pretty much the exact same ADP. right? And I love Scatterbo. Oh my God, I love Scatterbo.
Yes.
But I think when you're talking about a guy who could potentially see top 5 running back targets in the NFL, I mean, he was again, this is a guy that was top 15 in running back targets last year. He didn't really start playing until week 5, right? Like, if you give this guy a full season, he's going to be a top 5. He's most likely going to be a top 5 running back target earner, right? So, again, if we're playing a PPR, which most everyone is, the PPR floor and ceiling for Tyrone Tracy is for real. Like, and again, I love Scatterbo. Scatterbo is going to be great. I think he's going to be perfect for this offense. But if we're looking for pass catchers, and let's not make it seem like Tyrone Tracy's a bum. I mean, Tyrone Tracy's a good player. You know what I mean? Like, he was a good player. He's an explosive player. Like, so no, give me the guy that's got pass catching chops and is clearly in the lead right now. Scatterbo dealing with an injury too. I think for the first 6 weeks of the season, I think we're going to see a heavy dosage of Tyrone Tracy as the quarterbacks get used to it. By the way, I just also want to throw this stat out there too. The Pittsburgh Steelers with Russell Wilson were top 5 in running back target share last year. So Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited is very limited now, and I think he gets it. He's checking down to the running back. Okay, so and I do think that Tyrone Tracy will benefit. So there's a lot of like positive momentum heading towards Tyrone Tracy, a player that you could take outside the top 70 picks right now. I think that's a great bargain at running back.
So final word, if you are punting quarterback and tight end, you can build a roster like this where you have 4 running backs, 4 receivers. You have depth. You can withstand bye weeks. You can withstand some injury. This is the benefit. In our next show, we'll talk about quarterbacks and tight ends you could take later if you waited, because we'll pick up this mock draft where we left off. But like we're showing you the Rotowire, from draft day to the championship game, we prep and you win. All right, everybody. If you want to look at this tool, you want to look at all the articles behind the paywall, the draft kit, you will get you 15% off of your Rotowire subscription. You go to rotowire.com. You use the code YouTube15 at checkout. We want to thank our sponsor, Circa Million and Circa Survivor, and thanks to everyone for hanging with us. Come back next week for another edition of the Rotowire Fantasy Football Podcast.